So now I have a question for you. Do you still beat your wife? Let's talk about Treacherous dilemma. Tip number 72. Welcome back to 101 Tips for Interviewing and Interrogation. Your host, Stan Walters, and we're talking about tip number 72. Now, if you listen to the question just proposed at the beginning of the tape, you say, there's no right answer to that. Do you still beat your wife? Let me ask you, which answer is the best one? If you say no, then the interviewer can say, well, when did you stop? If you say yes, when was the last time? So there's no outcome to this that in any way is a benefit to the subject or person who's answering the question. That's what we mean by treacherous dilemma. Now, several things characterize the misuse of this tactic, which is borderline dishonest in its framing the subject, its manipulation of the subject's thinking process. It is a manipulative tactic. Now, how this happens, first of all, in an interview where you have a guilt assumptive type interview, remember we work on a narrative-based format. The guilt assumptive approach has been around since 1957. It's taught as predominantly as the tactic of how to force a subject to talk, to help them feel that their situation is hopeless, the resistance is futile, that the evidence is overwhelming, and the subject has no other choice but to comply with the wishes, with the position of the interviewer. Those are moving to manipulative and coercive type interviews. That's the reason the Police and Criminal Evidence Act of 1984 was passed in England and several other countries that make it illegal to use that type of guilt assumptive approach. So if you follow the guilt assumptive approach, the interviewer has already made up his mind that this subject is already guilty. It's just a matter of getting them to admit to do it and locking up the confession at all costs, at the risk of losing the case and coercing a false confession or coerced statement. So then that starts because they misdiagnosed deception, so they decided that they have to be guilty. Now, this is characterized by never letting the subject say no, constantly interrupting them, not permitting them to give an alternate explanation for what happened, or to give their side of the story. It completely shuts the individual down. That's the manipulative part of it. And this is very razor thin between what's appropriate and inappropriate, but not taught in interviewing, unfortunately. We have very, very poor understanding as interviewers of what's influence, persuasion, manipulation, and coercion. Go back and look earlier for that segment in our YouTube series here. Once an interviewer has developed a preconception by misdiagnosing deception, shuts the subject off, doesn't let them give any type of resistance at all, cuts off any argument, okay, that ends the persuasion process. Then they set the trap of treacherous dilemma. Did you kill her because you hated her, or you just hate women? Did you steal it because you were a thief, or because you just needed it this time? Has it happened before, or is this the first time it's occurred? Is this something somebody planned, or is it just spur of the moment? You'll notice, no matter which way the person answers, that they fail to see the hazardous response. This point of actually controlling and dominating the person, they see no other options. They are now felt with this overwhelmed position, and they don't understand that whichever choice they make, that they are doomed, and they have fallen. So they don't see that there's third, maybe a fourth option along the way. This is the final step in the process of manipulating a subject into admitting to something not done. And this is just to get out from under the pressure is why they will admit to it, or why they'll give the condemning or damning answer. So look at the treacherous dilemma process and understand that it's, no matter how it is, do you still beat your wife? Question, or you now have you remembered a member of the Communist Party, for example. Those are intellectual manipulative traps. And we're seeing and understanding this more as we research more about contaminated statements and false confessions and coerced confessions. That this is one of those pieces combined with misdiagnosing deception, with preconception, and this trap process, a double-edged question or treacherous dilemma, that is forcing subjects and victims and witnesses into be completely compliant to the complete will of the interviewer. And it's an unethical process. But it's a slope that interviewers don't see occurring, because they are more into adding the game of winning than they are into collecting information and evaluating what information is critical, which real information is accurate, and is it complete. So think of the process, and now formally what you need to look at is what's referred to as a call to action. You give a single option for the subject, and the option is that is in their ballpark, it's in their domain. Do they have a chance to clear this up? Get this over. Let's get this over with before the rumors start. I can tell that you have something on your mind. I can appreciate that you want everybody to hear your side of the story. Notice that it gives the subject the option and the process and the ability to answer. The effective interviewer, the effective ethical interviewer, is not the interviewer that forces the subject into talking or admitting. It's the one who lets the subject understand that it's in their best interest to do so without trapping, without manipulation. Good to be with you. Be sure you hit the share button. Please share it and add it around for me if you will. Hit the like button to add weight to it. That's part of the process that gets the videos out over on Google so other folks can find us some valuable information and improve their interviewing skills. And if you want to improve the skills and advance your skills to the modern science of interrogation, intuitive, effective ethical interrogation process, give me a call. And I'll be glad to work with your agency, your specialized group, or your association. All you do is just give me a ring and let's see what we can do to improve your interview process. So until we see you next time for tip number 73, this is Stan Walters. Remember, be safe.